right, ladies and gentlemen, happy Thursday to you today. I hope that you're having a great day, and it is the last day of the week. So yay, it's like your Friday in a way. So I hope that you guys have a great day. I hope to bring you a good lesson today to start off our new chapter. It's chapter 26. And with that said, we can kind of expect to do a quiz on this chapter next Friday. So you guys have until then to start, reading the material, reading the textbook, which we're going to present that to you today. And then, of course, taking the lesson games as much as you can. Hopefully by now, you know that the lesson games on TCI are your graded test. It's like the test day. So thank you guys for those of you who took those tests, that test, and that grade is an EDSB for you. So in anticipation of chapter 26, you know that test is going to be next Friday. Feel free to practice as much as you want. So with that said, welcome everybody in the meeting today. We're so glad to have you here. I am very excited to announce two of our student assistants today. And these two student assistants are representing House Leopold today. So I'm so excited to have them. It is Nick and Leilani. So Nick and Leilani, you'll be kind of assisting me today through this lesson. These are going to be some really fun notes that we're doing. So I am definitely going to need you guys today. We're going to go ahead and start with Nick. Nick, what are your expectations for this class today?
Well, I think that it's going to be kind of like how we used to do it because we're just doing like some notes.
Yeah, we're going to be doing notes. So definitely have you guys pay attention to those. And if you don't have any materials, maybe have paper with you so you can take down those answers. Thank you, Nick. Leilani, what are your expectations as a student assistant today?
I believe that it'd be important to stay on task, and because we're at home and you can't see what we're doing, so it'd be important to stay on task and pay attention to the lesson.
Yes, that's a really great recommendation for everybody. Just know that, learning is still taking place and we are starting a new chapter. So I want you guys to picture yourselves as if you were in ancient history class, as if, it's the day of a brand new chapter, a day to start taking notes. Think of what you would do. You would sit there, you would face forward, you would pay attention. So we want you guys to kind of embody that today. So that's what is on tap. So thank you guys very much. Thanks, Nick and Leilani, again. I also have a special person today that is going to do a kind of a positive message, because that's kind of like what
you're glitching out.
Oh, sorry. That's kind of like what we do is, we start class in a positive way. So I have Miss Ava Doty today to kind of start us off with a positive word, some encouragement, some motivation. So Ava, you're on.
Okay, so we're all in this together, and a new day brings new possibilities, and we can do anything we put our mind to.
Oh, that's very, very sweet and very true. And yes, we are in this together, all of us here today, and going through everything. So we are here to lean on each other. So thank you for that, Ava. That was really beautiful. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with our day today. The agenda is not anything too crazy, just because we're taking notes and we know that that kind of takes up a good amount of time. But our objective is today, you're going to take notes on the types of governments that ancient Greece used. And there are 4 types. And I'm super excited to tell you guys kind of the evolution of how those governments changed and got to democracy in Greece, and how Greece's gift for, the world was that form of government, which is really cool because we kind of have a form of that today. We'll talk about that later. But today's agenda, we're going to do a little short video. I've never done a video on Zoom, so please forgive me if the audio or whatever, we're going to try it. It's only 3 minutes, so we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to have you guys take some things away from the video, and then we're going to do our fill-in notes today. So Give me a thumbs up if you guys are on board with that. Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, so we are going to stand by for a short video clip. And what I want you guys to do as you listen, like I said, it's only 3 minutes, so it goes by pretty fast. And I want you guys to think of 3 things that they say about democracy during this clip. 3 things, pick anything they say. It does go by fast, so make sure that you guys are listening in really well. And like I said, I'm not sure how this is gonna work with video, so we're gonna try it out, all right? So thanks for bearing with me, guys, here.
The world saw the beginning of great changes in the 1980s. The fall of communism and the end of apartheid brought on a new trend as democracies swept across the world. In country after country, people striving for democracy called out for freedom and equality.
I think the 80s have been the most massive changes we've seen in the 20th century. Even though we've gone through wars, we've gone through revolutions, we've gone through national disasters.
The President of the United States.
The word democracy means ruled by the people. It is a form of government, a political philosophy, a way of life. Throughout the ages, people have fought for democratic ideals of individual equality and freedom. Democracy's roots stem from ancient Greece as far back as 600 BC. The city-state Athens was the center of Greek civilization and culture. Here, Athenians gathered in their public square to discuss public affairs and conduct business. And this is where democracy was born. Democracy in Athens called for active citizenship, believing it was the duty for all male citizens to participate. They served in the assembly, which passed the laws and established government policies. These citizens held the right to vote, hold public office, and own property. Athenian democracy, however, did not give these same rights to women, foreigners, or slaves. Pericles, a democratic reformer in Athens, said, "We do not say that a man who takes no interest in politics is a man who minds his own business. We say that he has no business here at all." Indeed, active citizenship is one of democracy's most basic principles. Athenian democracy laid the foundation for the concept of democratic government we see around the world today. One of its distinguishing features is that decisions are based on a majority rule, but in a democracy, the minority still has rights. To safeguard the rights of individuals and minorities, many democratic countries write a constitution or set of rules that embodies the country's laws and principles, like freedom of religion, press, assembly, and speech. Some scholars believe that our forefathers were inspired by the Iroquois Confederacy's constitution called the Great Law of Peace. It embodies the basic ideas of democracy. But unlike the democracy of ancient Greece, Iroquois extended rights to women, and slavery did not exist. The most fundamental freedom guaranteed in a democracy is the right to vote. In the United States today, it belongs to all citizens, but this hasn't always been so. Women did not secure the right to vote until 1920, and although the 15th Amendment gave the right to vote to free slaves, it was not until 1965 that suffrage was guaranteed to all African Americans. People have marched, petitioned, and fought until all barriers have come down. The best way to honor and celebrate the long struggle that guarantees our right to vote today is to learn about the issues, participate, and vote.
All right, so that was the video. Nick or Leilani, did you guys hear it okay?
It was
Part of it was glitchy.
Part of
Yeah.
it was glitchy? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take some hands here. If you were able to hear the video or hear parts of the video, what were some things that they said about democracy that kind of stood out to you? Maddox.
Sorry.
You're fine.
So a few things that stood out to me while listening to the video was I put down democracy, I put down freedom, which is unusual because some like Soviet Union, I don't think they had democracy, right? They had like just the like whoever was in charge basically controlled all the people.
Yeah, absolutely. So freedom to you was a really important word there.
Yeah, because also in some of the other like some in the other civilizations that we studied before, they had social classes, and basically those people would make the decisions. Like you never saw a peasant basically go vote for like a king or someone.
Right,
else.
right. A lot of people had certain rights, and some people actually didn't have any at all.
Yeah, and
Very
I also
good.
put down constitution
Yes.
for one of the words that stood out because we know that the other civilizations had written laws, but it wasn't like the laws didn't really focus on the people at all. They usually just focused for what things were right and what things were wrong and the punishments.
And we also learned too, Maddox, that sometimes the laws were only written for like rich people, or they were only written for a few people, and that's how they got their power. So that's a great point that you make about the Constitution. I'm going to take Victoria. What did you think?
Okay, so I was very surprised that women not being able to vote went that far back, because like I was aware that that was an issue that we had for a long, long time, but I didn't know it went all the way back to like degrees. Like that's a long time.
Yeah, you're exactly right too. And we think like, oh, you know, like women had rights in Egypt, and women were very like highly looked upon in India. So of course Greece is gonna like accept women, right? But no, that's not the case. Women had like zero rights. So yeah, that's something really, really important to know. So thank you guys for paying attention to the video. I am gonna post it. So if it was glitchy for you, or you kind of were joining late, I'm going to post that so you can watch it on your own time. It's old. Yes, it's very dated video, but I thought it had some good things to say about democracy. So with that said, I'm going to have you guys take out your documents that you printed or that you have in front of you. Or if not, you might even have just a sheet of paper to kind of write the answers down that we're going to be going over on this document here. The document is our notes for chapter 26. And it really, really does help to have it out and to follow along and just to fill in the blanks. We are doing these type of notes as opposed to Cornell notes, obviously, because we can follow along easier. So they look a little bit like this. So as I talk, as I lecture today, I'm going to kind of just point in where I'm having you fill out. So just kind of pay attention. You really want to make sure that you get these filled in. And then after each Roman numeral, Roman, Greek, I'm going to go ahead and take hands. So as you can see, monarchy is Roman numeral 1, oligarchy is Roman numeral 2. So as we do each one, I'll take questions just in case you guys, if you miss something, we can go back and address that for you. So kind of going back to that question that I posed last lesson about the baseball team or the sports team doing the last play, who would you rather have pick? This is kind of describes your answers to that. So basically, if you guys chose, you wanted the coach or the assistant coach to pick the play, that kind of describes a monarchy. So guys, monarchy and a monarchy right here. So you're going to fill in this blank right here with the word monarchy. The power to govern is actually in the hands of one person. And that's what you're going to write here. So in a monarchy, the power to govern is in the hands of one person. Now, this is what we're normally used to with, you know, King Sargon or any of the pharaohs or any of our kings that we've, and sometimes queens that we've studied so far in ancient history. So they will fall under this particular category, a monarchy. Now, monarchies still exist today, but very, very few. You guys might even heard Queen Elizabeth II. She made a speech like a week ago about this whole situation. So that's an example of a monarchy that still happens. But one thing that's important is that in Greece, there were no queens allowed. Okay, so talking about, women's rights, they did not allow queens, so only kings. So in this blank right here, it's most likely a king, So yeah, I would like to put queen too. So just, I want you to imagine Nicholas Abrams, he's the reigning king right now, and he's just loving life, and he has all these responsibilities, which we're going to get to in just a moment. But in the case of a king, is this king ultimately ruling alone? Leilani, is the king just by himself, or does he have helpers?
Probably has helpers.
Yeah. So in our case, for ancient history, usually the helpers were the king's family. Like maybe he had his brothers and uncles, like kind of be on the court. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here. The king in this case does have assistants. So letter B is kind of where we're at here. Don't forget, we'll go over once we get through Roman numeral 1. So just like one of our kings said, Nick Abrams, do you remember from back in the day, what king of ours said, my sons will rule after me? Do you remember that king?
Is that King Sargon?
That is King Sargon. So that statement right there actually travels, and this concept travels to Greece. So Greek monarchs rose to power through inheritance, basically saying like my son will rule after me. I'm going to spell inheritance for you just in case you don't know how to. It's INHERITANCE, inheritance, because they inherited the power. So once a king died, his son would come and take over for that.
Sarah,
Yes.
didn't I forgot who it was, but the prince who followed his father, like he did Buddhism. I forgot who it was, but didn't he like use his family as like helpers?
Are you talking about Chandragupta Mauryan from India?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, we did the Socratic seminar on him. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, a lot of kings did, because they needed advice, they needed things from people. Now, in this case, though, in Greece, we're going to know that the people that the king had hang around him were rich people, and we'll talk about why. But now I'm going to get to letter C here, the powers of the king. So we still have Mr. Abrams is our king. He's loving life. He has people around him. But what are King Abrams' powers? Okay, so number 1, he has to make the laws. Make laws, number 1. So if you're typing at home, you can just do 1, make laws, just like so. So this document is editable. Number 2, what would Mr. Abrams do then? Well, he gets to act as a judge. So he gets to discipline people, and he gets to tell people like their punishments. He gets to bang the gavel and say guilty. So he gets to act as a judge. Another thing that King Abrams gets to do is he gets to conduct religious ceremonies. So anything that needs a blessing, or anything that needed some type of religious figure, that was actually the king. So conduct religious ceremonies. So Leilani, can you think of any other instances where he would need to conduct a ceremony?
Not really sure.
What about you, Nick?
Wouldn't he have to do weddings and stuff?
Yeah, sometimes weddings would need a religious person. Sometimes people would make, you know, like calls, like I need someone to come and bless this or do that. So yeah.
Oh, I
So-
think
yeah,
that
Naomi.
he could have like, so if someone like had died, maybe someone would invite him there.
Yeah.
Just like be there, so like they could maybe go to the afterlife or just something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So some type of funerary ceremony. Absolutely. Going back to the powers of the king of Greece. So King Abrams, our lawfully king here, he gets to actually lead the army. So they led army. So anytime they were to go into battle, which if you guys know Greece, you know that they went into battle a lot. It was usually the king who was leading everybody. Now, do you think the king was there marching along, or do you think he just said, go? What do you think, Nick?
Said go.
Yeah. He definitely put some other men in the forefront for sure, while he was protected back at home. And then finally, the last power that you had, Mr. Abrams, King Abrams, is you get to actually punish people. Not just act as a judge, but you could actually punish people for, like, if they disobeyed your laws, if they did not pay their taxes, and you could actually use force if you wanted to. So yeah, punish those who disobeyed laws. And if you guys wanted to add in there too that he was able to use force, he was able to. So there's that. And sorry, these kind of look a little messy now. I'm going to try to make them look pretty. Thank you guys for following along. I know it's tough in this way, but I think you guys seem to be doing a good job. And then finally, we're going to take some questions in a second, but I wanted to get to letter D here, which the advisors to the king, we usually had them be the family. But in this case, they're called aristocrats. I'm going to spell that for you. Aristocrats. So not to be confused with the movie Aristocats, with the cats doing their thing. It's the aristocrats. And these people, we're going to talk about them in the next section, okay? So here are the notes again. In a monarchy, the power to govern is in the hands of one person, most likely a king. Greek monarchs rose to power through inheritance. And then listed here are the powers of the king, the things that he could do. And as far as his advisors go, they're aristocrats. And they are going to come into play here, actually, in this next scene. So I'm going to take a look at some questions that you guys may have. Cammie.
If they didn't like have queens, how could they have like another generation?
Well, they had wives. The kings had wives, but they weren't able to rule as queens. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Trey.
I actually forgot my question. I'm sorry.
No worries. You can lower your hand next time if you do forget. Miles.
So I was gonna say, I don't, I just forgot.
No worries. Thanks for admitting that. Juliana.
I'll me in another second.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll keep you unmuted.
All right.
Like, how would they become king? Like, I don't get it. Like, how do they become king though?
So that's a great question. Sometimes they would actually conduct certain type of elections, not like something formal. But then we also talked about they would become king if their family or if their father was king before them. So through inheritance.
Okay.
That's a great question.
I just remembered my question.
Yes, go for it.
I didn't know they had like taxes.
Yeah. They've had taxes.
The government with taxes.
Yeah, they've had taxes since Mesopotamia. So it was just something to make the king powerful. They would pay him taxes so he would stay in power, and sometimes he would help the people, and sometimes he would help himself with that. So yeah. One more question. Make sure if you don't have a question, your hand is down. Nikhil.
So going so my question is for the kings when they were like in power, like when they stayed in power, how long did they like rule for?
So that's another great question, kind of along the lines with Juliana's. So sometimes the aristocrats, like his advisors, would say, okay, you've ruled way too long now, so we're going to try to get a new person. So sometimes they would do that and kind of put limits to their powers a little bit. And then other times they would just rule until they died, and then their family would take over. Hopefully that helps you. All right, we're going to move on to the next section, which is oligarchy. And I'm going to use some of you guys as examples in this because an oligarchy is a small group of people, and I kind of want us to role play this a little bit because it's really fun. So going back to our notes and Roman numeral number 2. So we all know that King Abrams is doing a decent job with being a king, but you know, King Abrams is very bossy, and he tells the aristocrats, which are his advisors, to do a lot of stuff. Like, you need to go onto the front lines. You actually need to pay for the army's battle armor. You need to pay for this because you're so rich. And so what started to happen was that the aristocrats were kind of getting annoyed with King Abrams and the king. And they were like, he's very bossy. Why doesn't he just do it himself? Why, like, look at us. We're the rich people. He needs us. So what happened was those aristocrats kind of came together and they decided, you know what, like, honestly, without us, the king is nothing. So we might as well like overthrow him. So that's exactly what happened is the aristocrats overthrew the king, and it was pretty crazy. So Emma Hansen, you're going to be one of my aristocrats. I want you to kind of come up with a plot. Like, what would your plot be to your fellow aristocrats to overthrow King Abrams?
Maybe like I want to like poison his drink.
Ooh, that's very spicy. Yeah. So what else would you do to kind of gather your fellow aristocrats together?
I think that we would all like, maybe whenever they're having a nice food gathering or like having a nice dinner, I would be like, hey, like, come over here and I have this special poison that like kills him or whatever. And then I would come and drop it in his drink and be like, oh, here's some nice wine. And then I would give everybody else nice wine, and it would look the exact same, but when he drank it, he would die.
So Emma, what would you tell your fellow aristocrats to like why we needed to do this?
I think we need to do this because maybe he was being too aggressive with his rules and we didn't like it. So we like kind of, what's the word whenever you are following something and then you think it's bad and then you come back and do something bad towards it, like revenge.
Rebel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, rebel. We rebel.
Yeah, exactly. So Emma, who would you have as your group of aristocrats? Name a couple of students in this group.
Let me see real quick because I want to look at the participants because I know some good.
Or you can just say any sixth grader. That's
okay. So I would have, how many do we need?
In addition to you, I want 4 more.
Okay, so I would have oh no. I would have I think I would have Andreas, Areej,
wow,
Holly, and maybe Gage.
All right, so Emma, those are some really great names, which takes us into our oligarchy right here. So I want you to think Emma and her crew are, they're over it. They're over it with the king, and they are now the leaders. So after Greece was no longer run by kings, these little groups came together, and that's called an oligarchy. So right here, you would write an oligarchy, and that is spelled right up here. It's when power is in the hands of a few people. So what by few, we mean like 4 or 5 people that are in this oligarchy. So right here, an oligarchy is when power is in the hands of a few people. And we're going to kind of give some characteristics to these oligarchs here. So Emma and her crew were Reed, Andreas, Holly, Gage. You guys are kind of like this new group of leadership. So most Greek oligarchs, ladies and gentlemen, were, you said it, rich. They were rich, for sure, because their money is really what kind of helped fuel, you know, buying supplies and helping the government. So rich, they were, for sure. That rhymes. Anyways, they also, one of the things that made these oligarchs so in power is that they had land. I'm going to say landowners. Most were landowners, and they inherited this land from their family. So their families were from a very rich and strong background where they had this land. So most Greek oligarchs were landowners. So Emma Hansen, so far so good with your categories here. Next, some oligarchs were actually wealthy merchants. I'm going to go ahead and take that back a little bit. Wealthy merchants, which means that they traveled, they traded, and they traded not only goods, but the finest of goods. So these aristocrats just had like the finest products, and they stood out because they had rare things from other places. So they were very wealthy merchants. And then most Greek oligarchs, this is gonna be kind of long. They were comfortable in their everyday lives. Why were they so comfortable? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are an oligarch, so Emma and crew, you guys are, you might start the day by, you know, going on a little mini hunting trip. And after that, you get a delicious feast. And then after that, you might host or attend a party with only the richest of people. And that's kind of your day. Like you get to, you know, there's nothing like really crazy that you do. So you have a very comfortable life as an aristocrat. And aristocrats are oligarchs. So it's the same thing. So if I say aristocrat, it's oligarchs too. Now, think about this lifestyle. Some of us are trading the finest of materials. Some of us are rich. Do we care about people lesser than us? So Nicholas, what do you think? Do you think these oligarchs are like, I want to help the poor?
No.
No. Leilani, do you think these aristocrats or these oligarchs are like, how can we give back to you?
No, I don't think so, no.
Not at all. You guys are both exactly right. So the oligarchs were just living it up. Like Emma, I could just see Emma just like, yes, money. And I could see her crew just like loving all the power. But they did not care about society, which, guys, Nick, was the, I guess you could say, middle and lower class the most of the population?
Yes.
Yes. So most of the population is not feeling this lifestyle. They're totally actually getting worse. So this statement down here for letter C, where it says the oligarchs were blank by the poor. Leilani, what word do you think goes in there?
Maybe like disrespectful or something like to disrespectful to, because like disrespectful to the by the poor. Disrespectful by. Not
yeah.
Towards. Okay.
Yeah. So what's a good word that you could fill into that blank? So the poor blanked the oligarchs.
Can I try?
Maybe like hated or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have in my notes is hated. And if you don't want to write hated, you could put disliked. Yeah, the oligarchs, but they were hated by the poor. And under this way of rule, the blank and the blank. So that's kind of hard to guess. So I'm going to say the rich got richer. Can you guys say the last statement?
And the poor got poorer.
Exactly. The poor became poorer. Okay. So the oligarchs were hated by the poor because they weren't even an afterthought. And so under this rule, the rich continued to get richer and the poor got poorer. So yes, that's what happened. So kind of transferring to the next type of rule, which is a tyranny, I'm going to tell you how an oligarchy fell apart, how this didn't work so well. So I'm going to go to our hands. If you don't have a question, or if you see your hands up and you're like, ooh, you can go ahead and lower your hands. But questions about oligarchy. Rosemary.
I missed the second blank. An oligarchy is when a power is. I missed that.
In the hands of a few people.
Okay, thank you.
In the hands. You're welcome. Brady.
Will this be on YouTube?
This lesson?
Yeah.
Yeah, they all are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So basically, the oligarchies would tax more to the poor people so they could get rich and then steal from the poor. So the poor got poor.
Precisely.
The other thing, I had something to say before this. There's actually a thing with my family up in my dad's side in Wisconsin. We actually had like this Abrams thing where it was in a museum, and we had descendants that were like maybe loyal.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's really cool.
And it was called like the Abrams clan or something. I don't remember.
Oh, so I was kind of accurate in my role play today with you.
Yes.
Nice. That's awesome. Owen, you're going to be my last question.
Okay. So I missed the first two blanks in the oligarchy.
Okay. So an oligarchy is when power is in the hands of a few people.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to go back to the notes. We only have 2 more sections left. And I am going to tell you how the next type of government kind of came about. So Emma Hansen and her clan of oligarchs are, living their life of fancy. Obviously, the majority of the population, I don't want to say everyone's poor, but the majority of the population is not really liking this style of government. They're not being helped. They're not being assisted. They're not being looked after. However, there was one person, and this one person is usually tied to the army. And because the oligarchs funded the army a lot, so they kind of dealt with them a lot. So this one person kind of said, you know what? I'm going to do what I can do to help all of you. And if you just follow me, if you just kind of come in a big crowd and you cheer for me, I will do whatever you can. So this one person was a very charismatic person. What that means is that they were very well liked. They made speeches that made everyone cheer in the middle of them, and that he made promises. I say he because not she's, unfortunately. But they made promises to the people, like, we're going to help you, we're going to feed you, we're going to make sure you have a lot of food. So they were just they drummed up the crowd so much. And so a tyranny, and here's where all of our shattered dreams are broken, because this sounds great. This sounds like a person who wants to help, a person who wants to be on board and who cares about us. But a tyranny is also sometimes called, and I'm going to slow type, is sometimes called a dictatorship. And we know that word because of history. We know dictatorship, we think evil. What happened though is this person rose up, and since they were in the army, they were able to defeat the oligarchs. So sorry, Emma, sorry, Emma's clan, but they defeated you because they had so many more people on board. So this people forced the oligarchs from power. So if you guys are following along, a tyranny is sometimes called a dictatorship. So a person who rules in a tyranny is called a tyrant. And then obviously someone who rules in a dictatorship is called a dictator. Nick, name a famous dictator that you know.
Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, exactly. So people like Hitler, people that rose up and was one person that represented a group, is a dictator. And so dictators, guys, often started out really nice and really like wanting to help. But then once they get the power, that's where a lot of it changes. And so that's all I have to say about tyranny, because on, I guess, Monday next week, we're going to focus more on tyranny and monarchy because they're both ruled by one person. So we're going to talk about the similarities and differences there. So just so you know, that one person rose up and kind of got everybody on board, which wiped out the oligarchs and made way for that one person. Now, dictatorships sometimes often stuck with countries. We know even through World War II, there was a lot of dictators out there. However, the ultimate type of government is our last one here, which is democracy. So any hands related to tyranny or how that came to be? Braden.
So I'm gonna guess, since you did like the sports thing last time, I'm gonna guess tyranny is that one popular person is the one.
100% yes. The most popular person on the team. And yeah, Braden, they might not even be the best player, but they might be like the one who attracts all the players. So yes, that would be the tyranny. Did you choose that one?
No, I chose the group of people.
Okay, good job. We'll take Ryan.
Okay, so like back to the start when the king was like first overthrown.
Oh yeah.
Don't they have like sons or something to rule after them when they died?
They do, yes, they do. But if the king was overthrown and the oligarchs were like, well, you know, we're in charge now, we have all the money, you have nothing to back it up, they would kind of slip in and take that role.
Okay.
Yep. All right, guys, on to the main event, which is democracy. I'm very excited to talk to you guys about what really Greece's gift to the world is democracy. Yes, Nick.
I think Leilani had a question.
Yes, Leilani. Do you have anything to say before we move on?
So I had a question about the last one that we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the first question, I have two. The first question is, how do you pronounce it? Because it kind of looks like weird to say.
The third one?
Yes, the third one.
So think of a tear, like I'm crying a tear. Tyranny. Tyranny. Mm-hmm.
And my second question was, could Michelle Obama be a dictator?
No. No, she's not a
what
dictator.
She did for women's education.
So there's something different between somebody who is very popular and then somebody who's popular but wants to rule the people. So she's definitely in her own right somebody who is a proponent for others, and but she doesn't use that power to like take it to the next level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do this last little bit of democracy here, and it's Roman numeral 4. So guys, in a democracy, and that word that goes in the blank there is citizens. All citizens share the ruling power. So like Braden kind of referred back to the teaser question last lesson, this would be when the whole team comes together and makes the decision. So all citizens share the power. Now, what we have today as far as a democracy is different than what Greece had. So I'm going to kind of decipher the two. So ancient Greece had a direct democracy, and I'm going to write that in here. Direct democracy. Now, back in ancient Greece, we saw in the video that most of the citizens spent their day just discussing issues, discussing politics, and voting. That was their job. That was what they did. So their job allows them that when an issue comes up, they vote on it directly. They themselves, the person, votes on the issue directly. That's why it's called a direct democracy. This means that every citizen is allowed to vote on every issue. All right, so direct democracy, you, me, Ricardo, Antoine, we're allowed to vote on the issues. Now, in America, it's a little different. Let's think about it. Do your parents go vote every day? Nick,
No.
Do your parents go vote every day?
No.
No. Leilani?
No.
No. But do you guys think that there's issues every day to be voted on?
Yes.
Yes, there's issues all the time. There's votes all the time. However, your parents have their jobs. You know, we have our jobs. We can't vote every day. So have you guys ever heard of politicians?
Yes.
Yeah. So politicians are a
The
job
voters.
to go vote on behalf of us. So basically, we kind of put our ideas in there, but we ultimately have representatives to go take our feelings to the higher level. So this is why we have a representative democracy. Okay, we cannot vote every day. Like our jobs don't let us do that. But there are people that have taken their jobs to actually vote for us. So they'll take it and go to Washington and vote. So America has a representative democracy. Okay, so not all Greeks, we're in the last one here, not all Greeks believed that democracy was good. Okay. Sometimes the assembly would kind of reverse decisions after a few weeks. So there is a lot of philosophers when we get to in one of the next chapters, we're going to learn a lot of philosophers spoke out about government a lot, because when they voted, they just switched the vote and it was worthless. So not all Greeks believed democracy was good. There were some that spoke out and spoke verbally against democracy. So we'll learn about who those were in later chapters when we talk about different philosophers. Okay, so guys, that is how we went from a monarchy to a democracy in Greece. And this one seemed to stick pretty well in society, where a lot of governments have taken this type of way to rule each other and did so very, very well. I'm going to take it to some questions to kind of wrap up our notes and to wrap up our lesson. Nick, do you want to start us off with the question?
Could you repeat? Could you repeat the first blank in democracy? My pencil fell. So
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. So ancient Greece had a direct democracy, and it allowed every citizen to vote. Cool.
Not that one. The one before that. At the all.
Leilani, do you have that one?
Citizens.
All citizens? Yeah. Oh, sorry. All citizens share the ruling power. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go to Mr. Post. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, but I forgot my question. I was
Okay.
trying to think of my question.
No worries. Luke, did you have a question?
It's on the tyranny or
Tyranny.
We're all rulers after they gained power, were they all cruel, or were there some that stayed the same?
There are some, obviously, that were, not everybody gets to that level because it's all an individual thing. So not everybody got to that level, but when it's shown when some people have that power, they misuse it and they let it get to their head, but some worse than others. Yeah. Good question.
Okay.
Good question, Luke. All right. And then since we are kind of running out of time, if there's any burning questions that you have, please place them now in the chat so that I can address you guys individually. Most people who give me questions, I do Edsby message. So just place those in the chat if you can. So hopefully you guys do that. You guys have an hour to work on this material. What you can do is you can make sure your notes are filled out. What you can do is you can go into TCI and read chapter 26. You can read the text. And I 100% invite you guys to practice the lesson game. Remember, the lesson game is going to be a real test next Friday, but you can do it as much as you want. So when I see people getting like 50% and 60%, I'm kind of confused because you guys can play this game as much as you want beforehand. So maybe take this hour to focus on that kind of work. And there's nothing due today. There's no graded assignment today. So don't worry. That's why it's important to take this time to go and practice, read the chapter, kind of reiterate what we went through today. Nick and Leilani, I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for a great lesson today. Thank you for your assistance. On your way out, do you want to say a couple words? Leilani, you can go first.
I just want to thank you for letting me be your assistant for today.
Yeah, you did a great job.
I think I could speak for Nick too, saying that I think this was kind of awesome doing this, and being unmuted.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's very cool. And Leilani, is there anybody that you want to say hey to from 6th grade that you miss?
I miss Ryan.
Aw. Hey, Ryan, we miss you too. Thanks, Leilani. We appreciate your help today. Nick, what about you?
I have something positive to say. Stop worrying about what you have to lose and start focusing on what you have to gain.
Oh, I love that one. Yes, sometimes we focus on the wrong things, and that brings our focus to the right place. And Nick, is there a 6th grader that you miss that you want to say hey to?
Hey, Jaden.
Hey, Jaden, we miss you. All right, you guys, have a great day. Take this hour to go work on ancient history. It's gonna do you good, so you might as well do it. And if there's any missing assignments that I've emailed you about, work on those too. If you have any questions, I'm gonna be on Edsby answering questions, so I'll be here. You're not bothering me. I'd love to hear from you. So have a beautiful rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your lessons, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, a great Easter, as best as we can. Just know that I miss you guys very much, and my office hours are open today, so come by and say hey. All right, have a beautiful day, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, Miss Kara.
Bye, guys.